Good day everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Bfly, and today we will be discussing another Lightbringer build. We will be discussing the ACPC build, as well as when do we use this kind of build, and other things to take note of when using this build. And before we start, if you are new to this channel or have not subscribed, please consider subscribing. Here we go. Let's start with the PvE settings. Since this is a glass cannon build, we've maximized the STR. We also have a total of 240 luck since we are using the Mastering Star card, and the rest would be Dex. Now let's try to understand how the skills work. First, the arm cannon. The arm cannon uses an X amount of neutral damage to enemies. The smaller the enemies, the greater the damage. And the photon cannon, on the other hand, uses 100% arm cannon damage for every 0.5 seconds for 3 seconds. And it is a force wind element, meaning it cannot be converted. Next to discuss would be the modifiers for us to increase the damage for arm cannon and photon cannon. First would be the easier monument for arm cannon. There are 4 nodes for arm cannon enhance. And each node increases the arm cannon damage by 10%. We also have the arm cannon destroy, which adds ignore def when hitting using arm cannon. Each node reduces enemy def by 10%. That's a total of 40% def reduction. We can further increase our arm cannon damage via rune. We have 2 runes applicable for arm cannon. One is the ballistic modification rune, which adds arm cannon damage, and the other one is the energy cannon rune, which adds charges. Now, how does the energy cannon work? Well, the charge is actually not a multiplier. Rather, it is an added damage on top of your first hit. Here is an example. If you recall, my energy cannon rune only has 4 charge, but my arm cannon hits 5 times. So if you're lucky and you have the maximum charge, you hit 7 times. There are also skills and equipments that can further modify the damage of your arm cannon. Here's one. This is the effect of the Skull Bracer that I'm currently using. And this damage is the effects of recursion. Yes, arm cannon can be modified by Skull Bracer and can also be modified by recursion. With this, it raises a few more questions. 1. Does recursion work with the effect of Skull Bracer? And 2. Is there any way for a fully charged arm cannon to work with a Skull Bracer? For the first question, I haven't tested it with arm cannon, but I was able to test it using Knuckle Boost since it's much simpler. And yes, recursion and Skull Bracer can work together. The second question, let's try to understand the Skull Bracer effect first. It does say that if you are only using single target skill, the next physical attack skill has a chance to deal 100% damage. It did not say anything about using the same skill, so meaning we can use Knuckle Boost to proc the Skull Bracer and see if it works. You will actually get a buff when the Skull Bracer procs. See, the first buff is your recursion and the second one is the Skull Bracer proc. Now let's try to proc the Skull Bracer effect again, and this time we're gonna use the full charge arm cannon. I'm just gonna use Knuckle Boost to proc the Skull Bracer, and there. Let's try to use arm cannon now. There we go. We were able to proc the Skull Bracer effect. We used the arm cannon full energy, and the damage is higher. Fortunately, at this point, my meal's timed out, so the damage is lower than expected. Fun part is, it's not only charge arm cannon that gets affected by the Skull Bracer effect. Pioneer and Machine Revolution can also be affected. But that's for another video. The sad part is that it's highly likely that you will not be able to use this in real combat. Now let's go with Photon Cannon. Photon Cannon is a straightforward skill. It hits you every 0.5 seconds for 3 seconds, and it reduces your wind reduction. So the longer it hits, the greater the damage becomes. And as you can see here, it started off with 10.5 per tick and ended up with 18.2 per tick. I've already made a video of this before, but using Stalker's Knife and Breath Holder's armor. This includes Epic Spirit Lightning, Wind Chime Fan, and Prince of Thunder, since you'll be using Photon Cannon as the primary skill to use. You can also add Harpy for additional wind damage as pet, but I'm not sure if this one works on TTL. But if you have the boss hunting equipments like the Jungling Queen or the Flying Quarterback, use this instead so that your arm cannon will also be affected and not just the Photon Cannon. You can use either set, but personally I would prefer the Jungling Queen and the Flying Quarterback so that you will not be bound on using just Photon Cannon. Personally, I only know of 2 instances where I use a full Photon Cannon build. One would be if I am hunting mini-boss, just mini-boss, and the second one would be if I am a DPS for TTL. My character doesn't use this skill a lot, but my Mado gear does. By now, you should be able to understand that this build is very versatile, meaning it can be combined with any other builds and will still be effective. The main reason is because it's not stat bound like any other builds. And aside from me using arm cannon as my main farming skill and Photon Cannon as my main Mado skill, the ACPC build is very much used for PvP. So next we will be discussing the setup or the build for ACPC PvP style. Unfortunately, we will not be able to continue, but please stay tuned for the second part of this video for the PvP build.